The Vexed Message. Written by Tony Wade. Read by Greg Davies.
John Fisk was an unremarkable man with an unremarkable career. I say career, I mean job. To call John's job a career would be an overstatement. John worked in the office of Tripec Plastics, where he turned doing nothing into an art form. Never going the extra mile, staying under the radar, but never being so bad that he could actually be sacked. He whiled away his days dreaming of owning a canal boat. He detested working there. Finally, the day John had dreamed of for years came round. Redundancy meetings would be held that afternoon. John was a shoo-in for a payout, top of the redundancy list for sure. He'd had his eye on a semi-trad luxury narrowboat for some time. All mod cons inside, old-timey elegance on the outside. Perfect. But there were other boat lovers with their eyes on it too. So, not to miss out, John had put down a large deposit to make it his. He just had to keep his job for a few more hours, sign the redundancy agreement, and walk away, boat money in the bank. John was in a fine mood that day. That was until his manager, Dennis, a painfully neat pedant of a man, made him redo the quarterly reports, not once, not twice, but 5 times, because the margin was not perfectly aligned. John, who, as we've established, didn't like doing work at the best of times, was understandably irate. Seething, he pulled out his phone and vented his anger. He sent a spectacularly colourful, Dennis-bashing text message to his wife. He mocked Dennis in every conceivable way, ripping his boss a textual new one with his tapping thumbs, paying particular attention to Dennis's stupid sports car, its number plate, The Boss, spelt B-O-5-5, and how it was linked to the smallness of his genitals. He hit send and relaxed, pleased with how many swear words he'd fitted into one message. A tinny version of the Top Gear theme tune came from Dennis's office. Another thing about Dennis that irritated John no end, his bloody ringtone. He pulled his phone out again, ready to text his wife some more bile, when he sat bolt upright. Dennis's ringtone. Surely he hadn't. John quickly checked the message. He had. He'd sent it to Dennis. John panicked. He felt sick and emitted a small nervous burp. His future flashed before his eyes. A disciplinary hearing, a sacking, no redundancy money, no boat. His fate was sealed. Or was it? Dennis wasn't in his office, and on his desk, his phone. All John had to do was pop in, delete the message, and nobody would be any the wiser. John stood up from his messy desk and headed towards the kitchen as if to get a coffee. He passed Dennis's office door and he turned the handle. Bugger! It was locked. Of course it was. Dennis seldom let anyone in his obsessively-compulsively neat office. John thought fast. Dennis was in a meeting. That gave John 1 hour to get Dennis's phone and delete the message. That was his quest. Annoyingly, he could see the spare office key on Patricia's desk. Dennis's faithful PA, Patricia, was less of an assistant and more of a foot soldier. She was uncharmable. He'd get the key another way. John built a fishing rod with a desktop pencil sharpener for a reel and a sharp novelty paper clip for a hook. John raised the rod above his head and cast. He hooked it. Unfortunately for John, the it in question was his own right earlobe. Blood was dripping on his shirt. He managed to muffle a scream as Patricia tutted and scowled at him. John wrapped a post-it note around his bloody ear, then sidled over to IT Graham's desk. It was a long shot, but if anyone knew how to delete a text message remotely, it would be IT Graham. Hi, Graham. Graham instantly raised his hand to silence John. Go away, please, John. I'm extremely busy, completely snowed under. John looked to Graham's screen. He was indeed very busy, levelling up his blood elf on World of Warcraft. Time to find common ground. Bitch about someone else. How about that Patricia, eh? It's like Dennis built her out of bits of old apprentice candidates and shoved an Excel spreadsheet where her personality should be. Graham turned from his screen, looking John square in the eye and angrily sputtered, How dare you? Patricia is a professional, beautiful woman. She is a wonderful warrior princess. I won't hear a word said against her. I suggest you go back to your desk and badmouth people in your own time. John, stunned, left him. Time was ticking and John was running out of ideas. Who could he turn to now? Fat Nicola? She hadn't spoken to him since he'd mistakenly asked her when she was due. Hot, bothered and sweating, he stood in front of the air conditioning to cool off. That was it. The air vents. There was an air conditioning vent in the ceiling above Dennis's office, which came out across the open plan work area and down the far wall to another vent right behind Biscuit Dave's desk. John knew 3 things about Biscuit Dave. 1, Biscuit Dave loved biscuits. He ate them continuously. 2, Biscuit Dave never left his desk once he sat down. He stayed down. Apart from 3, Biscuit Dave's legendary sit-downs, the office euphemism for his daily, regular as clockwork toilet visit. Biscuit Dave's bathroom habits could save John's bacon. John glanced at his watch. 5 minutes to Dave o'clock. Was he really going to do this? Was the message really that bad? John looked at it on his phone. Yes, it really was that bad. He had to do this. John would have exactly 24 minutes to climb through the air vent, get into Dennis's office, delete the text and get back before Biscuit Dave returned. John prepared himself. He pocketed several rolls of sticky tape. Biscuit Dave stood up, newspaper in one hand, pack of biscuits in the other. He headed off. John made a dash for the desk. Then, under the cover of biscuit wrappers, he opened the air vent cover and got into the pipes. It was hard going. Dusty, hot and dark, John wriggled along like a hefty drunk snake. He had to move as silently as possible. He was directly above Patricia's desk. If she heard him, the shit would really hit the vents. Finally, after lots of slow, painful belly sliding, John was above Dennis's office. He was a fair way up. John stuck the tape to the vents, put the rolls onto his wrists and ankles, and began to lower himself. Picture Tom Cruise on a wire in Mission Impossible. Now, forget that image. John looked exactly as you'd expect him to. An overweight, sweaty asthmatic, covered in dust and sticky tape, dangling like a confused worm in a cheap suit. Suddenly, the strained tape gave up and snapped. John fell in a cloud of cobwebs, tape and muttered swearing. He jumped up and moved towards the phone. Then he froze. Someone was coming through the door. John scurried under the desk. Patricia walked in, shouting over her shoulder, "Graham, I'll just grab Dennis's phone for him, then join you for lunch." Time to do something bold. "Patricia, I love you." Patricia's surprise turned to instant suspicion. John bullshitted beautifully. "I love you. I've just never been able to tell you. That's why I was hiding here. It was my only chance to get you alone, away from the prying eyes of the office." Not a twitch on Patricia's sceptical face. John pointed at the blooded post-it note wrapped around his ear to distract her. I even tried to cut off my own earlobe to prove my love. As he did this, he palmed the phone into his hand. Patricia looked from John's blooded ear to his eyes. "Well, you're not the first. Men fall in love with me. I never say it, but I know. I knew we had a connection when we caught each other's eyes over the complimentary croissants at the self-promotion seminar in Guildford." Well, that was unexpected. Behind her back, John went to delete the message, but a figure loomed at the office door. It was IT Graham. "That, sir, is the woman I love. Unhand her!" Graham looked furious, and because the closest he'd ever come to conflict was Dungeons and Dragons, he sounded a bit medieval. "I said unhand her, sir." He pushed John hard, who stumbled back, dropping his phone. "Please don't fight over me," said Patricia, with a look that said fighting over her was exactly what she wanted them to do. At this point, Dennis entered, apoplectic at the scene, his beautiful, pristine office violated. "My office! You can't be in here. Get out!" The room fell silent. Then Dennis exploded. He lurched forward, trying to grapple the interlopers to get them out of his special place. But as he did, he tripped, falling into one of the many birds' nests of sticky tape. This was Dennis's worst nightmare. Mess! He rolled around, trying to find his feet. But the more he struggled, the more tape wrapped around him like a sticky-backed spider's web. A crowd gathered at the door, mouths agape at their boss's grotesque performance. After 10 years of absolutely nothing happening in the office, suddenly everything was happening in the office. Dennis was shouting, wildly losing it, lashing out. He tripped, kicked Graham in the nuts, then brought down John with a rugby tackle. He hit the floor, winded, but with the phone right in front of him. He took his chance. Under the cover of the desk, he grabbed the phone and... Passcode? No! What the hell would a dick like Dennis have as a passcode? Think. Dennis was wildly grabbing at John's legs. Think, John, think. Of course, his stupid number plate. John tapped 8055 into the phone. It worked. He deleted the message and quickly exited through the crowd back to his desk, the sound of Dennis's sellotape breakdown in the background. John sat and looked around the office. No eyes on him. Had he got away with it? As the day wore on, there was nothing but talk of Dennis's insane outburst. By lunchtime, people were calling it the incident. By the afternoon, it was legend, and some unimaginative soul had dubbed it Tapegate. Because of the enormity of Dennis's shit fit, John's involvement had been completely overlooked. John straightened his tie and dusted himself down. It was time for his redundancy meeting. It was time for freedom. John was greeted by the chief executive, who got straight down to business. So, as you know, today we've been talking redundancies. Yes? But obviously, that's not why you're here. What? Terrible questions rushed through his mind. Had they found out about the message? Was he going to be sacked this close to the big payoff? We're making you manager. You're being promoted. Shocked silence from John. The boss explained they'd been planning to give Dennis the promotion, but after his little re-evaluation that afternoon, he'd agreed to step down. You've served this company for a decade, John. You're a safe pair of hands. You're the smart choice, the right choice, not a wild maverick like Dennis. This was the worst thing John had ever heard. He was stuck. He couldn't quit, no redundancy money. He couldn't get fired, ditto. Times are tough, so the pay rise isn't significant, but there are benefits. Weekend seminars in Hemel Hempstead, an exclusive Happy Eater gold card, and you'll be given a new PA, Patricia. She'll be by your side at all times, and you're a lucky man. She is a fine woman. John left the room, reeling, looking at the colleagues he hated. Patricia, who thought they were having an affair, and who would now be stuck to him like a limpet. Graham, who hated him back even more. Fat Nicola and Biscuit Dave, who... He was eating biscuits. Would he ever leave this place? He couldn't even turn down the promotion, needing the money for his boat payments. Oh, his boat. Weekend conferences, Hemel Hempstead. He'd barely get a chance to set foot on her. He sat at his new desk. So much paperwork. So much work, full stop. John scowled at Dennis's stupid personal pictures. A picture of a stupid dog. A picture of a stupid canal boat. What? A canal boat? John looked a little closer. There were canal boat-themed objects everywhere. Books, pictures, figurines. What the hell? A knock at the door. Dennis had come for his things, looking happier than John had ever seen him. Congrats on the promotion, John. He seemed genuinely pleased. I'm glad it went to you. I couldn't take it anymore. The stress, the workload. This afternoon proved that, didn't it? So I'm taking a redundancy, dosh. And quite a chunk of dosh as it happens. I'm a free man. No more Hemel Hempstead. I can finally live my dream. I'm buying a narrowboat. Dennis headed off towards the office exit. John felt sick. This couldn't get any worse. Dennis reached the doorway and turned. Oh, actually, John, you know a bit about barges, don't you? Tell me, how'd you go about getting a personal number plate for a narrowboat? So, there you go. Never count your chickens before they hatch, because unhatched chickens are eggs. And you should never put all of those eggs in one basket, especially when that basket is actually a luxury narrowboat and the eggs are thousands of pounds and an unsigned redundancy agreement.